Hi everyone, welcome. How are you all? How are you, Glenn?
I'm very well, Mark. Yourself?
Yes, doing all right. Thanks very much. Excited by this second one here. So if you haven't joined last week's or haven't caught up online, this is the second in our series of EdTech in the Cloud on that leadership webinar. So Glenn, what's coming up today?
So we are going to be talking you through here, sort of closing the gap using assistive learning and how cloud software can certainly help you achieve those goals within your sort of schools and local authorities.
Of course, yeah, very much focused on the active learning and getting really everyone up and active rather than just sitting and watching, which is always a key. So hopefully you can join in today and be active yourselves and really take part in this cloud-based software here. We're using Lumio, which is a piece of software by Smart, and you can join in as well. And now along the bottom in a moment is going to be how to join. I'm just going to bring it up here on screen as well. So I'm using this software Lumio, and for learning, if you just want to watch it, if you want to take part in it, and the code's coming along the bottom there. You can head over, just open up a normal website and go to hellosmart.com. No gaps, no spaces, just hellosmart.com. Join as a guest and then enter that class ID there. I'll read it out once, but like I said, it's on that ticker tape along the bottom as well. 162353. No spaces, just straight away across. 162353. And that will then get you into this lesson here. So you can actually play that active part in this cloud-based software here. So as you're beginning to join and as we're kind of gathering more people across platforms, wherever you're joining, hello, welcome again. And this cloud-based software to learning to close the gap. So let's just jump over into a bit of an agenda for here.
So just a quick introduction myself. So my name is Glenn Harrington. I'm the International Software Manager at Smart.
Super, I'm Mark, and I'm Professional Development Specialist here in the UK.
And today we're going to sort of get you thrown in and find out a little bit of your ideas as well around, the importance and what is active learning. How can cloud platforms support active learning?
Yeah, and then we'll jump into a bit of the research. And rather than kind of a quick demo, we're trying to demo everything through Lumio today. So you're already in the demo, which is great. If you've just joined again, there's that link to actually join into that live lesson coming along the bottom as well. I can see just from a teacher's point of view here, I've got 7 of us joining. Actually joining live as well. So great to see you join today. So heading forward, it's kind of like we said, this is a little bit of a demo. It's a bit of a teaser of what Lumio is and the benefits of that cloud-based learning to help support close the gap and really lean on the active learning side of things as well. But if you want any more support and actually wanted to look at it in a bit more depth and how it can actually support your setting, your school, wherever you might be, your college, then head over to that website there. And then we can book a full demo and actually support you and how it's going to actually make a difference for your learners as well as your educators. So an agenda, Glenn, all yours.
Yeah, so as we mentioned, we're looking at closing this gap with not just our cloud-based software, but with cloud-based software as a whole. So the first point, important to act quickly when closing the gap. So obviously, we need to identify these areas and we can help these students within your setting as soon as possible. The second part of that is how software can sort of support that, but both leaders, IT leads, not just teaching staff and pupils. So the analytics, the data that can help support the IT leads and your school leaders within your environment. And then the advantages of active learning to support those outcomes. So we've got a white paper on that if anyone's interested in as well, when you sign up for the demo, we can send that through to you to show you those findings, which we'll go through shortly.
Yeah, I nearly thought you were going to say, let's read that whole white paper. As interesting as it is, it's definitely a bedtime read rather than for a quick splash on social. So looking at that, closing the gap with that cloud-based software we talk about and the importance to act now. Obviously, that gap only gets bigger if left alone. When students accelerate their learning and students that are struggling and they've got those gaps in their learning, trying to build on that can be tricky. And trying to plug those gaps as soon as possible and identify those gaps is really, really key to be able to build on that success that the students should be building. Obviously, that whole the whole online teaching, the whole COVID, yes, we are past COVID, but are we past the gap that has created within education? And there's a great post here up on that saying that there is that gap in that learning. We saw from recent results over the summer that there is that drop in actually attainment side of it as well. So trying to highlight where that is and trying to get back up to that where we were before. We've got the government releasing massive funds, particularly to kind of maths and English specialist schools and those hubs. And then, of course, a lot of research on actually that cloud-based software can really support that, and actually having that impact within the classroom. And yes, this says K to 12, but primary, secondary, wherever it might be, to actually really support the learning itself and make that shift so that it gives the students that active role in it, so they're participating within that lesson itself. So this one here, I've got a couple of ones here. Again, this is just using a Lumio activity. And if you are joined live, what I'd urge you to do here is, well, if you want to listen to what to say, you've got that audio button at the top there. But which ones do you think are most important here? Glenn, which one would you kind of sway upon?
Personally, at the moment, I think with the initiatives from the Department for Education, off the server is huge in terms of the cloud-based aspect. But I think, yeah, the active learning aspect and getting those students, rather than just being talked at, getting them actually hands-on, doing what they need to be doing.
Yeah, I struggle with this one. So people that want to play along, I can see seven of you joined already. If you haven't joined, just trying to kind of make a mental note of which ones you would do, and we'll come and see how it is at the moment. In a moment, I'll jump into the analytics of this and see how we are kind of as a cohort getting into this. But it's really tricky when I was trying to order these myself. What's the most important to have as that IT provider, as teachers, as staff, as that the leadership side of things? Which one of these is more important? Yeah, that active learning first, but actually, should it be that the students can access it anywhere?
Yeah,
whether
this is it. And I think with the amount of devices that were sent out to students during the pandemic as well, a lot of students who didn't have access to devices previously now do have access to the device, but what do we use them for? So I think that's a huge, huge benefit.
I think I could spend all day moving these up and down.
Yeah.
For those that have joined, feel free to order those that you want. I'm just going to now use this software Lumio and actually view the progress here and see how we're getting on. We can see that I've got 2 of you completed those results there. I'm just going to see if results. So as a general rule of thumb, we're thinking that active learning is the most important. We've got accessing anywhere is key as well. And then looking at, interestingly, off the server and the upgrades are coming down towards the bottom of that list. But there we go. And I could jump into individual results, and you can see here behind they are blurred. I'm not going to name and shame anyone today. But if you were doing this in the classroom, I can jump into individuals analytics to here rather than just that whole class view for those bits there. And I can jump into time and individuals and all those bits and pieces, or just not show those results if I just wanted that holistic view for everyone there. So a really, really key point to actually see those bits, take the active role, how individuals are doing. And of course, once the students have logged out of this lesson, I've got those analytics to take home with me and analyze in my spare time. Super. So I'm going to move on this activity, and because we are actually in teacher paced rather than on student paced at the moment. If I left it on student paces, you can carry on with that activity. You can do it whilst we're going on, but I'm going to now jump onto that next activity so you can kind of follow on from that as well. Glenn.
So I think we've got here the advantages of active learning within here. So as I mentioned there before, we've got all these devices that were pushed out to students. So in a lot of school settings now, we do have that sort of individual device. So as I say, what do we use these for? We've got this cloud-based software, something like Lumio here, where we can absolutely use and utilize these and get the students actively doing something themselves. I think Mark used a really good analogy earlier around bringing a pencil from home, bringing a pencil case from home, or using a pencil from school. If it's theirs, it's their own work. They're not just being spoken to. This is something that they can collaborate on. This is something that they can also, begin to really drive and push their own sort of boundaries. If they're a nervous learner, not happy to sort of shout out and, raise their hand in class, this gives them the ability and the confidence, to answer questions via something like, a shouted out activity that we've pushed through. But as you can see through a lot of these documents here, that active learning is sort of huge in terms of a buzz point around it, especially in the UK at the moment. We also have, like I say, the white paper, which we'll share in a moment or two, which really shows that sort of gap between people that are using cloud-based software to close that gap. And the results are actually really, really interesting in terms of the differentiators. But the other thing as well, I suppose, is from teachers that are in your school setting as well. I was reading a study earlier today, and it was discussing that a lot of teachers had said, from a skill set point of view, they needed additional support when it came to things like coding, this sort of thing. So your cloud-based software has that ready-made activities in there to really aid and support the teacher as well, which is obviously going to raise outcomes for the student.
Yeah, definitely. Just picking up on that point when you said about shout it out and that student voice, just highlighting this bit here, that improves self-esteem. The fact that it is class-based and we can put it in the hands of the learner, that if it's, they can't see it visually impaired wise, like let's zoom in, pinch to zoom, and I can zoom that for myself. If it's like I can annotate, I can see that, I can write on my own here without the fear of coming up to the front, without the fear of shouting out or putting my hand up. Actually, I can respond in my comfort zone wherever it is. And if that's child for mental health reasons actually can't be in school, they can still participate in this because it is cloud-based, and they can have as much input as someone in the class when they're not actually in the class as well, and play that active role. So that's really key there. Super. Let's jump down then, and let's use, like Glenn said there, let's have a look at that active learning. Now we've touched a few, we've given you a few answers here, and I'm just going to start this for the class. And this activity here was, again, if you've joined live, you can jump in and see some shout your answers out. What are the benefits of active learning? So if you have joined live, you've got a little text box, and if you want to just send up an answer saying anything, what are the benefits of active learning? And send an answer. If you want to just type in hi just to see how the feature works, then feel free to do that. And I can see more people are joining. If you haven't joined, you've joined us kind of halfway through the session, first of all, hello, thanks for joining. And you'll be able to see the code along the bottom. You go to hellosmart.com, join as a guest. And once you've joined as a guest, it'll ask you your class ID. Again, that's on the ticker tape along the bottom, 162353. And then you'll be able to join this class. So I can see Kate's up here, looked at engagement for students. So key for that one. Getting them part of it. And that's a real good benefit of the active learning. Participation, games, improved engagement. There's some really good ones here. Student input, privacy. Yeah. So I've got these names actually on this one here. Let's just click on this and toggle these names off. So let's give you a bit of privacy here. So I can take your names. I can just see now these are dots. So anyone adding in this better comprehension, I have no idea who said that yet. I can see it's the same person. That one is the same shape. But actually, I'm going to jump over to the side. I can see, Katie, she sent in 2 answers. So I can see that one there. And I'm just going to toggle these names back on just because I want to give those thanks to those people. So better comprehension. I've got understanding, aids understanding, teachers ready for ready-made resources. There's lots of these stuff with here that really then supports that benefit of learning. And this is just what everybody else is seeing from that benefits of it. Can you think of any other ones, Glenn? I think we've put them all there. Nice bit of fun.
I think we've covered the majority there.
Definitely.
But I think, like you say, that the key part is that, like I say, the fun, the engagement, and that's it. I think these are also probably things that some students have never had access to previously. So obviously that's the fun part. It's new. It's not your textbook. It's not just here's an iPad, look at X. It's.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much, I mean, this one here was just a PowerPoint I dragged and dropped in, and then I just chucked a shout out over the top. So from that kind of teach side of it, really easy to set up. But then I can put that in the hands of the learners and drag and drop the PowerPoint in, and then add in that shout out activity. And all of a sudden I've got that engagement. I've got all these answers coming through, and they're still dripping through here. And I can leave that running. I will just highlight this one as the final one here. Benefits of active learning. It's active. Spot on there. We all like to be active rather than sitting down doing nothing. So on that note there, I'm just going to push on to the next one. Again, I've saved these results within Lumio. I can come back to these and accredit them to whoever later on as well. I think that's just a list of things that we've thought of. Pretty much what you've got already there: participation, that personalization, and the key, that's supporting that gap. It gives everyone the ability to move on. You were saying, Glenn?
No, just saying that closing the gap, obviously, that is what we're here to talk about. We didn't actually push that in and shout it out. So, yeah, that is obviously a super important part of it.
I was kind of hoping that someone would have the title of the webinar in it, but hey, no. We'll have to tee someone up with an answer next time. So these ones here, looking at that features of active learning, a lot of these that you've kind of pulled, that problem solving, that student creation, that participation, that differentiation. And when we're just running it from the front of class display, when we're just showing them content as the learners, that kind of middle box there that's kind of where we are, which has been fine. It works well. It's worked well for a long time. But now we've got the advancements of the technology. We've got the devices actually in hands of the learners. What can we do with it? We've got broadband improvements. We've got, like I said, devices and then the software to actually marry those things together, not just one, but all those pieces of the puzzle coming together. You've got all those benefits down the side, that multimedia, the easy interface, the collaboration, being able to use it at home as well as in school or wherever they are. Looking more of your college base, when you've got work-based placements, you can actually take it with you and have that learning link through a platform like Google Classroom, Teams, Seesaw, or anything else. And to be able to access that content, access that learning you had within the classroom, notes and all, can be invaluable on your phone, for example. Glenn, was any of those you wanted to focus on?
Yeah, I think, the easy interface, obviously, and that use multiple programs. So, if you've got a student who is struggling, and they're having to use multiple different interfaces to, sort of engage and deliver a lesson, that can be a challenge in itself. So the fact that Lumio, you can, run your science through to your English, not an issue at all to have that interface. But as you say, it's so easy to share and utilize at home as well. So the students don't need to sign up to anything to access at home. So they can go through this with, sort of the carers at home and mum, dad, so on, to go through these things. And I think that is really important.
Of course, it's completely free for all the students as well. They don't need a license, which is always winning.
Exactly. But, it is that familiarity, I think, is huge within that learning piece. Here's my white paper.
Yeah, go on then, Glenn. As
I've said it about 50 times during this webinar. So yeah, this, as I say, for those that want to have a read through this, absolutely sign up for a demo, and we can push one of these out to you as part of that. But you can see the highlighted sort of models here. So the purple column is the top outcomes in the UK that were surveyed, and you can see the difference between the lower outcomes, which is obviously in blue. So 61% higher outcomes achieved using the collaborative software. So, that is not an insignificant number.
It's massive.
And again, you look at that through to, and if you look at all these, though, the majority of the higher rated are all, down to that cloud-based software. You've got the assessment aspect of it. So again, within Lumio, you can create formative assessments. Great to sort of use and utilize. Again, can be done in class, at home. Game-based, making that learning fun. Like Mark said about the maths and the English there, when I was at school, again, harking back, that wasn't fun. It wasn't fun to learn that. There was nothing engaging. It wasn't interesting. So if you can make something engaging through the game-based activities, it inspires you to learn. And that is probably something then you would carry on.
What I really like, one of those games that I really like is just that word search. Like when I was teaching, sending out a word search, I had a class of like 25, but every week I'd photocopy about 40. And then just sending out a word search. They've done it once. That's it. I completed it. I finished my homework. Don't need to look at it again. But then there were some children that really did want to do it.
Yeah.
So the fact that when Lumio sends out a word search, teacher-wise, you just put your list of spellings or whatever it might be, and they're done. But then every time that student comes into the word search, it's a completely new one. So it's not just of the analytics I've done. It's I want to try it. I want to do it again. I want to do it again. That repeating of that. So that way of learning, that repetitive, often sinks in. And for those that are really trying to close the gap, the ability to have a go and have another go and have another go is really, really key. And those little steps really are the building blocks, having a go actively again and again to support those learners of all abilities, to hopefully close the gap, to bring them forward. And then using that pre-created content, like I said, to create a word search is just copy and paste a list in, and then smart software does the rest. The Lumio software does the rest. So it's really handy for all of those there. But lots of other great stuff within that white paper, lots of other great stuff within Lumio. We've pretty much reached our time here. So just as a kind of, this is a quick look at Lumio. Hopefully it's been useful looking at it. How can I support the teachers, your workforce, if you like, to really close the gap, and what is available out there to support that. And if you want to have that and look in a bit more detail, there's that website there. We'll leave that up for a few minutes just to go.smarttech.com/Lumio. And then, of course, join us again next Thursday at 4 o'clock for another 20 minutes when we're really focusing on that software and well-being as well.
Fantastic.
Super. Well, thanks very much, Glenn. Just as a kind of side note, if you do any teachers out there, a massive thank you already. We are having a big focus on a thank you and appreciation for teachers next Tuesday, next Wednesday, next week as well. So whatever platform you're on, there'll be some really nice, some stuff going out there, some freebies out to teachers, and just a big up to all of those teachers as well. So there are a couple of questions that have popped through in the chat. There's lots of hellos, so hello to everybody that's joined us from the chat as well. I think Glenn and I have looked at most of those questions that have popped up. If not, we'll get back to you individually as well. But Glenn, I think on that closing note, is there kind of anything else you want to add, or?
No, I think look forward to seeing you and everyone else next week.
How kind of you. Yeah, thanks very much, Glenn. Thanks, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you soon.